When US President Donald Trump first began levying new tariffs on imports from major trading partners, his stated goal was to reduce the US trade deficit. However, since then, the trade deficit has become larger. According to the US Commerce Department, the US trade deficit in goods and services widened to $50.1 billion in July, reaching the highest level since February. Meanwhile, US imports hit an all-time high at $261.2 billion. In addition, the Commerce Department warned that trade could become a drag on US economic growth in the third quarter of the year. President Trump appears to view trade deficits as a sign of economic weakness and blames America's trading partners for making what he called bad trade deals. However, mainstream economists argue that trade policy is unlikely to do much to change the trade deficit, and the widening US trade deficit has proved their point. But that doesn't mean President Trump's trade policy has no impact at all. American economist Mary Lovely said, and I quote, "If Trump's trade wars eventually hit business confidence, it would certainly affect the trade deficit. Then we would see a reduction in the US trade deficit, but of course with harmful effects on economic activity and employment." So the Trump administration's tariffs are unlikely to help reduce the trade deficit, and if they do, it will be at the expense of US jobs and economic growth. And if the additional tariffs the Trump administration has proposed become a reality, it will lead to a retaliation from other countries and disrupt global trade order. That will mean more US exports will be affected, which could lead to an even larger trade deficit. As IMF chief economist Maurice Obstfeld said, and I quote, "It seems intuitive that if I have an import tariff, I will import less and my current account will improve. If you treat international trade as a zero-sum game, you may end up with a negative-sum game." As experts have pointed out before, trade is not a zero-sum game. Sticking to unilateral trade policies will lead a country nowhere, and imposing tariffs and waging trade wars are certainly not the way to boost a healthy, sustainable economy.